The war ended on a gray plain under a broken sky. Smoke still rose from the ground, and the air smelled of metal and burned stone. Human soldiers stood in silence, tired and wounded, staring at the remains of a battle that had lasted many months. Among them was a human soldier named Eli. He stood with his rifle lowered, his armor cracked and dark with dust. He had survived when many had not. Eli was not famous because he was strong or loud. He was known because he kept moving forward even when fear tried to stop him. During the war, he had saved his squad more than once. He had also pulled wounded aliens from the fire when others would have left them behind. He did not see enemies as monsters. He saw them as living beings caught in a cruel system. Alien rulers of this world had watched him closely. After the final battle, the human forces were called to the great city of stone towers and floating lights. The alien council wanted to reward the humans for their victory. The city was silent as humans marched through wide halls built for creatures taller and thinner than them. Strange symbols glowed on the walls, watching every step. Eli stood among other soldiers in a large chamber. The ceiling was so high it vanished into shadow. At the far end, the alien council sat on raised platforms. Their bodies were covered in long robes, and their faces were hidden behind smooth masks. Their voices echoed without emotion. The council leader spoke of honor, sacrifice, and alliance. He spoke of how humans had proven themselves strong and useful. Eli listened but felt uneasy. He did not like the way the word useful sounded. Then the council announced the rewards. Some soldiers were given land on distant worlds. Some were given ships, medals, and command offers. Eli expected nothing. He planned to return home when this was done. He wanted quiet. He wanted rest. When his name was called, he stepped forward. The council leader raised one thin hand. Guards brought someone into the chamber. She was not wearing armor. She was not holding a weapon. She was small compared to the guards beside her. Her skin was pale blue, marked with faint lines that glowed softly. Her eyes were large and dark, fixed on the floor. A metal band rested around her neck, glowing with the same light as the marks on her arms. The council leader announced that she was a slave, taken from a defeated noble house. By law, she now belonged to the one the council chose. As a reward for service, she was given to Eli. The chamber was silent. Eli did not move. At first, he thought he had misunderstood. He looked at the woman, then at the council. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. Around him, some humans shifted uncomfortably. Others looked away. The guards pushed the woman forward. She stumbled, but did not fall. She stopped in front of Eli and lowered herself to the ground, pressing her forehead to the cold floor. Eli felt something twist inside his chest. He had seen death. He had seen cities burn, but this felt worse. He spoke, his voice rough from dust and anger. He said he did not want a slave. He said this was wrong. He said humans did not fight wars to own people. The council leader replied calmly. He said this was alien law. He said the slave system was ancient and respected. He said refusing a reward was an insult. Eli clenched his fists. He looked down at the woman again. Her hands were shaking. She did not look up. She did not speak. The council leader warned him. If Eli refused, the slave would be reassigned. Our next owner might not be kind. The council also reminded him that humans were guests on this world. Causing trouble now would not be wise. Eli felt trapped. Slowly, he accepted the control device offered by a guard. It was small, smooth, and warm. He did not activate it. He did not even look at it for long. He turned and walked away, the woman following him in silence. They were given quarters near the edge of the city. The room was simple, with smooth walls and a single light source in the ceiling. There were 2 resting platforms and a narrow window that showed the dark sky outside. When the door closed, the silence felt heavy. The woman stood near the entrance, her head still lowered. She did not move until Eli spoke. He told her she could sit. His voice was calm, but his thoughts were not. She hesitated, then slowly moved to the floor instead of the platform. Eli frowned and sat on the other platform. He removed his helmet and set it aside. His face was tired, lined with old scars. He looked at her carefully, trying not to scare her. He asked her name. She did not answer. He asked again, softer this time. She lifted her head just enough to look at his boots. She said her name was Lyra. Her voice was quiet and flat, like someone reading words without meaning. Eli told her she did not have to kneel. She did not move. He told her again, more firmly. Slowly she sat back, still keeping her eyes down. Asked where she was from. She answered with short words. He asked what she did before the war. She paused longer this time, then said she studied old history. Her voice changed slightly when she said that, like a memory trying to surface. Eli noticed the faint glow under her sleeve. He asked about the metal band around her neck. She stiffened. She said it was the mark. It ensured obedience. It punished disobedience. It could kill her if ordered. Eli felt sick. He stood and paced the room. He said he would not use it. He said he would find a way to remove it. Lyra finally looked up then. Her eyes were filled with fear, not hope. She told him removal was forbidden. She told him trying would activate the mark. She told him many had died that way. Eli stopped pacing. Outside the room, unseen eyes were watching. An alien enforcer named Vorn stood in the hallway, his arms crossed. He had been assigned to observe the human soldier and his new property. Vorn did not trust humans. He believed strength must be controlled, not respected. Inside, Eli sat back down. He spoke quietly. He told Lyra she was not his property. He said she was free to move inside the room. He said he would not harm her. Lyra listened, confused. She had heard lies before. Owners always spoke kindly at first. She nodded because the mark demanded obedience. As the hours passed, Eli cleaned his armor and weapons. Lyra watched from the corner. When she thought he was not looking, she touched the mark on her arm, her fingers brushing over it like it burned even without pain. When night came, the light dimmed. Eli lay on his platform, staring at the ceiling. He could not sleep. His mind replayed the council chamber again and again. Across the room, Lyra sat awake too. She slowly pulled her sleeve higher, revealing a small object hidden beneath the mark. It was thin and dark, carved with symbols older than the city itself. Her fingers trembled as she hid it again when she heard Eli shift. She whispered something in her own language, a word that meant hope and danger at the same time. Outside, the city lights flickered. Far above, ancient systems watched and waited. The reward given to a human soldier had begun to change something that had been stable for thousands of years, and no one yet understood how deep the consequences would go. Eli had spent the first day after the council's reward in silence. He cleaned his weapons, examined his armor, and watched Lyra move carefully in the corner of the room. She seemed afraid of every sound, every shadow. Even the soft hum of the lights made her flinch. Eli felt guilty for her fear, even though he had not touched the control device. He knew the mark on her arm and neck was more than punishment. It was a chain the council had built into her body. He wanted to understand it. When morning came, he spoke to her again. He asked about her life before the war. Lyra hesitated, then spoke slowly. She said she had lived in the northern spires of her planet, studying old history, ancient machines, and records. She had been a scholar, not a servant. Eli frowned. That meant she had been taken because of her knowledge, not because she had fought. He realized the council wanted more than obedience. They wanted power through fear, and they used her mind as a tool. Eli tried to ask about the mark. She only shook her head. "It is linked to the council," she said softly. "If you try to remove it, it will burn. If you resist it, it will punish me." Her voice trembled. Eli could see the faint glow running along her arm and the metal band around her neck. The glow pulsed slightly with her heartbeat, as if it were alive. Over the next few days, Eli tried to learn more about the council system. He studied old records in the city archives, moving carefully to avoid attention. The city was quiet, but the alien guards watched from every corner. Eli discovered that the marks were connected to an ancient system, older than the current rulers. This system could track and control individuals across entire planets. It had been used to control whole civilizations. Humans had survived the system once because they resisted, but it had enslaved many other species over time. Lyra began to speak more openly when she saw Eli risking himself to protect her. She told him small stories about her life before captivity, how she had studied machines that could predict weather and systems that stored knowledge for centuries. She had been proud of her work. Now, she lived in fear every hour. Eli felt a growing anger toward the council. He wanted to smash their laws, but he knew he could not act recklessly. One evening, a small hidden light in the city flickered. Eli had been walking the streets disguised when a strange figure approached him. The figure was small and cloaked, their face hidden, but they spoke in a human dialect. They introduced themselves as part of a secret group that resisted the council's control. They knew about the marks in the ancient system. They knew about humans being given alien slaves as rewards to weaken them. Eli listened carefully. The figure said the system could be destroyed, but it was dangerous. The destruction could spread across planets, harming many innocent beings. Eli felt a chill. Lyra's words from before came back to him, the hint that she knew a way to stop the marks. Could it be the same plan the rebels were talking about? Returning to their quarters, Eli did not tell Lyra about the stranger yet. He wanted to understand the risk first. He watched her move silently in the room. She was calmer now, walking closer to him, but her eyes still held fear. Eli asked about the object she had hidden beneath her sleeve. She hesitated. Finally, she revealed it, a small, carved piece of metal, dark with symbols. "It is part of the old system," she said. "I hid it in case someone tried to use it against me. It may be the key to stopping the marks." Eli held it carefully. It was heavier than it looked, smooth, yet sharp in certain places. The symbols glowed faintly when Lyra's hand was near. Eli realized the council had underestimated her. She was not just a slave, she was dangerous to them. That realization brought a mix of relief and fear. If the council found out, they would send Vorn or worse. Vorn was already watching. Eli noticed the alien in the shadows more often now. Vorn moved silently, always keeping a distance, always observing. Eli could feel the tension. The alien enforcer did not understand trust, only obedience. If Vorn discovered Lyra's hidden object or her plan, there would be consequences. Eli and Lyra had to move carefully. That night, Lyra whispered to Eli about the old system. She said it could be tricked. It responded to signals from fear and obedience. If those signals were replaced with courage and choice, the system could collapse. But doing so would send waves across the network, possibly harming those marked. Eli asked if she had tried it before. She shook her head. "I was too afraid," she admitted. "Too many died when they tried before me." Eli thought of the humans he had fought beside. He remembered their courage in battle, how they refused to surrender even when all hope seemed lost. Maybe humans could do what others could not, but he also knew the cost could be high. He was not willing to gamble with lives recklessly. Still, the idea planted a seed. The next day, the council summoned him. They wanted to inspect their reward. Eli knew he could not refuse without raising suspicion. He went, keeping Lyra calm beside him. In the council chamber, the air was tense. The leaders did not hide their expectations. They wanted him to assert control over her, to show the marks worked. Eli kept his calm. He spoke little, only answering their questions. Lyra remained silent, but her eyes flicked the hidden object beneath her sleeve. Eli subtly nudged her hand with his own, signaling her to keep it secret. The council suspected nothing. After the meeting, Eli returned to their quarters. Lyra finally spoke about her fears. She feared the council would send agents to take her away. She feared the marks could hurt her at any moment. She feared she could not trust humans to do what they promised. Eli reassured her quietly. "I will not let them touch you again," he said. "I will protect you." Over the next week, they began planning. Eli studied maps of the city and the surrounding areas. Lyra showed him the symbols on her object and explained their meaning. Together, they tried small experiments to see how the mark reacted to their movements and words. Sometimes the glow dimmed, sometimes it pulsed rapidly. Each change taught them more, but danger was close. Vorn was still watching. One evening, as Eli and Lyra discussed the old system, he noticed movement in the corridor. Vorn was standing silently, arms crossed, staring at them. Lyra froze. Eli did not panic. Instead, he smiled slightly. Vorn had underestimated human patience and caution. He would need to learn the hard way. Lyra whispered to Eli about her plan to destroy the system. "It will not be easy," she said. "I cannot do it alone, and if I fail, many could die." Eli placed his hand over hers. "We will do it together," he said. "We will be careful." At that moment, Eli realized the council had made a mistake. They thought they had given him a reward. Instead, they had given him an ally with knowledge that could destroy their power. Lyra was not a slave in the way they imagined. She was a key. And Eli was determined to use that key wisely. The next days passed in preparation. They practiced moving without drawing attention. Lyra studied the object carefully, explaining small changes to its symbols. Eli learned to read her instructions, even though they were alien to him. Their trust grew quietly, silently, like a fire waiting to burn. Then, one morning, as Eli watched Lyra hide the object again, he noticed something unusual. The glow under her sleeve was stronger than before, pulsing like a heartbeat. He reached out and touched it lightly. The glow calmed, dimming to a soft light. Lyra looked at him, eyes wide. "It responds to me," she whispered. "And to you, now." Eli understood. Their bond, trust, and courage could affect the system. Together, they were stronger than the council had imagined. But this realization came with a warning. If Vorn or the council discovered the change, the consequences would be immediate and severe. That night, Eli lay awake while Lyra sat quietly beside him. She traced the glow beneath her sleeve. She whispered old words from her language, words that felt like a promise and a warning at the same time. Eli watched her, thinking about the coming days. He knew the Council's power was immense. He knew the mark could still hurt her. But he also knew that humans had survived impossible odds before, and this was no different. Outside, the city slept under a dark sky filled with stars. The alien system waited, old and patient, but Eli and Lyra had discovered something it had not counted on: the courage to resist and the will to act. And somewhere deep inside, they both knew that soon nothing would ever be the same again. The quiet room felt heavy with anticipation. Tomorrow would bring choices that could change everything. The human soldier and the alien woman were no longer just master and slave. They were partners, bound by survival and trust, standing against a power that had ruled for centuries. And as they prepared, unseen eyes still watched, unaware that the greatest threat had already begun to grow between them. Eli and Lyra had settled into a quiet routine, but the calm was fragile. Every moment in the city felt like a test, and they both knew it. The Alien Council did not forgive mistakes. Their small room had become a base of preparation, a place where trust grew slowly and carefully. Lyra studied the object she had hidden beneath her sleeve, while Eli observed the city, the guards, and the movements of those who might report them. One morning, a message arrived in the form of a sealed data crystal hidden under a loose stone near their quarters. Lyra recognized the symbols on it immediately. They belonged to a small rebel group opposed to the Council's rule. Eli carefully took the crystal and activated it. A holographic figure appeared, small and flickering, but human in shape. The figure introduced themselves as Mira, a member of the Resistance. They spoke quickly, explaining that the Council's slave system was more powerful than most realized. Entire planets were controlled through fear and obedience, and the marks were just one part of the mechanism. Mira warned that anyone tampering with the system would be watched. Vorn, the Council enforcer, had likely already noticed irregularities around Eli and Lyra. The message concluded with a plea. If they wished to destroy the system, they would need allies and a plan. Eli listened silently, absorbing every detail. Lyra's hand tightened around the hidden object, the faint glow pulsing in response to the hologram. After the message ended, Eli spoke quietly. We cannot act recklessly. We need information, allies, and a way to control risk. Lyra nodded, though her eyes betrayed anxiety. She had never planned rebellion before. All her life, obedience had been survival. Now she faced a choice that could change her world forever. Over the next few days, Eli explored the city at night, avoiding patrols and watchers. He met with small contacts suggested by Mira, people who whispered in hidden alleys and passed messages under doors. He learned that the Council was fragile despite its power. Their system depended on fear, and if that fear could be broken, their control could unravel. Each meeting was tense, guards lurked in shadows, and Vorn's presence was felt even when he did not appear. Meanwhile, Lyra continued her studies. She traced the symbols on her hidden object, testing subtle manipulations. Eli watched her, realizing the depth of her knowledge. She understood the ancient system better than any human could. He realized something. Lyra was not just a key to destroying the system. She was a master of it, in ways even the Council could not predict. One night, Eli noticed unusual movement near the quarters. Vorn appeared, stepping from the shadows silently. Eli did not panic. He knew the enforcer relied on intimidation. I have been watching, Vorn said, his voice low and cold. Do not think your little experiments go unnoticed. Eli responded calmly. We follow the laws. Nothing more. Vorn's eyes flicked to Lyra. She froze, and the glow from her mark pulsed faster. Vorn's gaze lingered, studying her carefully. Interesting, he said. The human is cautious, and the alien is obedient, but perhaps too clever. He turned and vanished, as silently as he had appeared. Eli exhaled slowly. We need to move faster, he told Lyra. Vorn is already aware. Lyra nodded, her face pale but determined. She revealed that the hidden object contained codes that could interfere with the system's control signals. It would take careful timing and precise knowledge to use it, but it was possible to shut down a sector without triggering a chain reaction. The next challenge came quickly. The rebel network contacted them directly, asking Lyra to lead a small strike against a minor facility that maintained slave marks across the city. Eli knew it was dangerous, but it would provide vital information about the Council's defenses. Lyra hesitated, remembering the warnings of the Council. Failure could mean death for many. Eli placed his hand on hers. We do this together, step by step. They prepared carefully, disguising themselves and timing every movement. As they approached the facility, the city felt alive with unseen eyes. Patrols moved in patterns Lyra had studied, and cameras recorded every corner. Eli used his combat training to disable a few minor sensors without alerting anyone. Lyra adjusted the hidden object in her sleeve, sending a soft pulse that masked their presence in some detection systems. Inside the facility, they found rows of dormant devices, each linked to an individual marked by the Council. Lyra traced the codes, reading the system's signals. Eli watched her work, ready to intervene if guards appeared. The tension was high, and each second felt like minutes. They had never been this close to the heart of the Council's power. Suddenly, alarms blared. Vorn had discovered the intrusion. Eli grabbed Lyra, ducking behind machinery as alien enforcers poured in. He fired only when necessary, aiming to disable sensors and block entrances. Lyra activated the hidden object subtly, disrupting the tracking signals just enough to confuse the system. It worked partially, allowing them to move quickly through the corridors. They escaped onto the streets, the alarms still sounding behind them. Eli led Lyra through back alleys, avoiding patrols and watchers. She clutched the hidden object tightly, knowing it had saved them. Outside the city walls, they paused. The glow from the object had dimmed, but the tension remained. Eli looked at Lyra. "We have to be ready," he said. "This is only the beginning." Lyra nodded. She whispered the word she had learned long ago, the one that meant hope, but also danger. Eli understood its meaning now. They were no longer just surviving. They were planning to fight a system that had ruled for centuries. Over the next week, they returned to their quarters, careful and discreet. Eli trained Lyra in small defensive tactics, while she continued studying the object. They mapped escape routes, safe zones, and potential allies. Their bond grew stronger with every shared secret and every cautious step. Yet the threat of Vorn lingered. The enforcer moved silently through the city, observing, waiting. Eli knew it was only a matter of time before he struck again. He also knew that Lyra's knowledge was too dangerous to hide for long. Eventually, they would have to confront the Council or the system itself. One night, while studying the object, Lyra revealed more about the ancient system. "It was built to control entire species," she said. "It listens to fear, obedience, and choice. Courage can confuse it, but only if used carefully. If too much fear rises, it fights back." Eli listened intently. "So our courage must be precise. Too little, and we fail. Too much, and it could kill us." Lyra nodded. Eli understood the stakes. The Council had underestimated them. They believed humans were reckless and that Lyra was powerless. Instead, they were patient, observant, and ready to act. The hidden object was their advantage, and their bond gave it strength. Vorn appeared again, silent and observing, as if testing their patience. Eli met his gaze calmly, refusing to show fear. Lyra's arm glowed faintly beneath her sleeve. Vorn's eyes narrowed. He realized they were planning something beyond simple survival. He left without a word, but Eli knew the enforcer would return. The city around them continued its daily rhythm, but Eli and Lyra were changing faster than anyone realized. The system of control that had ruled for centuries was about to face something new. Human determination and alien knowledge, united in a careful, dangerous plan. As the night fell over the gray spires, Eli and Lyra sat together quietly. The hidden object pulsed softly, a reminder of the power waiting in their hands. Eli whispered, "We must be careful. Every step counts." Lyra nodded, whispering the word of hope once more. Outside, unseen eyes still watched, but for the first time the watchers were unsure. The human soldier and the alien scholar were no longer simply following rules. They were planning, resisting, and preparing to strike at a power older than either of them. The quiet before the storm had begun, and Eli and Lyra were ready to step into it. The choices ahead would be dangerous, but for the first time, they felt in control. The marks were not just chains, they were challenges waiting to be overcome. And together, they had the courage to face them. The city slept, unaware that the quiet bond between a human and an alien was already changing its fate. Eli and Lyra had grown more confident, but the danger surrounding them had also grown. The Council had begun noticing irregularities in the city, small disruptions in the marked signals and unexplained movements among the enslaved population. Vorn was still watching, moving like a shadow, patient and precise. Eli knew it was only a matter of time before he confronted them directly, and they had to be ready. One evening, Eli and Lyra left their quarters to explore a facility on the outskirts of the city. It was an old complex, long abandoned by the Council, but still connected to the ancient system. Lyra believed it held the secrets they needed to understand how the marks worked and how to weaken them. The streets were quiet, and the shadows were long. Every corner held a potential watcher, but Eli moved with practiced caution, keeping Lyra close. Inside the facility, dust and broken machinery filled the air. Strange symbols were etched into the walls, glowing faintly in the dim light. Lyra traced the markings, speaking softly in her language, trying to interpret the system's old codes. Eli watched her work, amazed at her knowledge. "This system is older than anyone remembers," she said. "It was designed to control entire species through fear. Humans are one of the few that could resist it." They moved deeper into the facility, discovering rows of dormant machines. Some were still active, faintly humming with residual energy. Lyra touched the hidden object beneath her sleeve, and the glow intensified. The object seemed to respond to the ancient system, pulsing in harmony with its signals. "It can trick the system," she whispered. "If I synchronize it correctly, we could shut down a sector and test our plan." Eli nodded. "We have to be careful. One mistake and the council will know immediately." They worked together through the night, adjusting codes, rerouting signals, and carefully observing the response. For hours, nothing seemed to happen. Then, slowly, one row of devices powered down, their lights fading to darkness. The system had been tricked, but only partially. Lyra looked exhausted, her hand trembling as she held the object. Eli placed a steady hand on her shoulder. "It worked," he said softly. "We just need to refine it." Their success did not go unnoticed. Outside the facility, Vorn had been tracking their movements. He reported back to the council, who were growing impatient. The council leaders began to realize that Eli and Lyra were not merely experimenting, they were actively challenging the system. Orders were sent to capture them immediately, and Vorn was given authority to act. Back at their quarters, Eli and Lyra discussed their next steps. "We need allies," Eli said. "We cannot do this alone." "The system is too strong," Lyra nodded. "The rebels can help, but they are small and scattered. We have to inspire more to join us." They planned carefully, deciding to move slowly, freeing small groups of marked individuals and testing the system's response. Each successful attempt would increase their knowledge and confidence. Days passed as they worked. Eli trained in stealth and combat, while Lyra refined her understanding of the object and the system. They practiced together, learning to synchronize their movements and thoughts. Slowly, their bond grew stronger, built on trust, respect, and a shared goal. Then one evening, the council acted. An alarm blared through the city, echoing off the tall spires. Vorn had discovered a larger experiment that Eli and Lyra had attempted. Patrols moved quickly, surrounding their quarters. Eli and Lyra were forced to act immediately. They packed their equipment, hid the object, and moved through secret passages beneath the city. The escape was tense. Patrols searched every corridor, and sensors monitored their movements. Lyra's knowledge of the city's old systems allowed them to avoid detection, but Vorn was relentless. He followed their trail, anticipating their moves and adjusting his strategy. Eli knew that confrontation was inevitable, but they had to reach safety first. Outside the city walls, they paused. The night was quiet, but the weight of their mission pressed heavily on them. Lyra revealed more about the ancient system, explaining how it fed on obedience and fear. "If we can replace fear with courage, choice, and unity, the system will collapse," she said. "But it will fight back. The marks will resist, and many could suffer if we act too quickly." Eli considered the risks. He remembered the soldiers he had fought alongside, the people he had saved, and the countless lives affected by the council's system. "We cannot wait any longer," he said. "We will act carefully, but we will act." Over the next days, they began reaching out to the rebel network. Using coded messages and hidden signals, they communicated their plan and recruited small groups willing to resist. Each new member was trained in secrecy, learning to avoid detection while preparing for the larger struggle ahead. Lyra taught them about the system, showing how even small acts of courage could weaken it. The tension in the city increased. Vorn intensified his patrols, and the council grew suspicious. They did not yet know the full extent of Eli and Lyra's activities, but they sensed a threat that could not be ignored. The enforcer became more aggressive, searching hidden areas and interrogating citizens. Each encounter brought the risk of discovery closer. One night, while preparing for a coordinated strike against a minor facility, Lyra's hidden object pulsed unexpectedly. The glow was stronger than ever, reacting to the system's signals. "It senses the network," she whispered. "The system knows we are working together." Eli understood the implications. Their actions had triggered a response, and the system was beginning to adapt. They had to move faster, but also with greater precision. Any mistake could alert the council fully and put countless lives at risk. They decided to split tasks. Eli would lead the physical operations, disabling sensors and providing protection. Lyra would manipulate the system using the hidden object, guiding the rebels and monitoring the effects. The plan required perfect coordination, and both knew that failure was not an option. The night of the strike arrived. Eli and Lyra moved through the city, avoiding patrols and navigating secret routes. Small groups of rebels joined them, following precise instructions. The facility they targeted was heavily guarded, but Lyra's manipulation of the system allowed them to bypass most of the defenses. The team moved like shadows, precise and silent. Inside the facility, Lyra synchronized the object with the system's controls. Lights flickered, machines hummed, and rows of dormant devices began to power down. The system reacted violently at first, sending pulses through the marks and causing discomfort to those connected. Eli and the rebels worked quickly, calming those affected and guiding them to safety. Vorn arrived during the operation, his presence a sudden shock. He moved swiftly, attempting to capture Lyra and regain control of the system. Eli confronted him, holding him off long enough for Lyra to complete the synchronization. The glow from the object intensified, sending a wave through the facility and shutting down the sector. Machines powered down, lights went dark, and the system faltered. Vorn was forced to retreat, his plans thwarted. Eli and Lyra guided the rebels out of the facility, moving through secret passages and emerging into the night. The city was silent once more, but the impact of their actions was already spreading. Citizens marked by the system noticed the failure, feeling a strange relief and newfound courage. Back at their quarters, Eli and Lyra assessed the results. The operation had been a success, but it had also revealed the system's vulnerability. They now understood that their actions could grow into a larger movement, capable of challenging the Council itself. Lyra spoke softly, her voice filled with both hope and caution. "We have seen what is possible, but the system will fight back. We must be ready." Eli nodded. "We will be ready. We have allies, knowledge, and each other. That is more than the Council expected." Outside, the city remained unaware of the full scale of the threat. The Council's power was beginning to crumble, but they had not yet realized it. Vorn would return, more determined than ever, and the ancient system would attempt to resist. But Eli and Lyra had proven that courage, trust, and careful planning could overcome even the oldest and most powerful chains. As they rested, the hidden object pulsed faintly in Lyra's hand. It was a reminder of the power they held and the responsibility that came with it. The struggle was far from over, but for the first time they had hope that the ancient system could be defeated, and that freedom was possible for those who had been enslaved for centuries. The quiet night was heavy with anticipation. Tomorrow, the next step would begin, and the bond between a human soldier and an alien scholar would face the greatest test yet. Eli and Lyra knew the system was reacting. Their last operation had weakened a section of the Council's control, but it had also alerted the enforcers. Vorn had disappeared for a few days, but Eli knew he was planning his next move. Every corner of the city felt tense, every shadow a possible threat. The marks on the enslaved population pulsed in response to the ancient system, some showing signs of strain. Eli and Lyra had to act quickly, but carefully, or their advantage would vanish. They began preparing for a larger operation, one that would affect multiple sectors of the city at once. Lyra studied her hidden object, tracing the symbols and analyzing the system's response from the previous strike. "If we time this correctly," she whispered, "we can shut down the network long enough to free thousands, but the system will resist with more force than before." Eli nodded. He gathered a small group of rebels, teaching them precise movements, ways to avoid detection, and emergency procedures if the system fought back. The group was small but determined. Each member had seen the suffering caused by the Council's marks and was ready to risk everything. The plan required coordination. Eli would lead the physical actions, disabling security systems and blocking enforcers. Lyra would manipulate the system remotely, using her object to disrupt the control signals. Other rebels would guide marked individuals to safety, keeping them calm during the process. Every second would count. On the night of the operation, Eli and Lyra moved through the city with practiced precision. They avoided patrols, hidden cameras, and sensors, slipping through narrow alleys and dark corridors. The rebels followed silently, their steps in perfect synchronization. Lyra's object pulsed faintly beneath her sleeve, guiding them through the city and into the first facility. Inside, the machines hummed with life. Lyra placed her hand on the hidden object, activating it carefully. The lights flickered, and rows of devices powering the marks dimmed. Some marked individuals felt relief, a strange lightness in their bodies as the pulses from the system weakened. Others shivered as the marks resisted, sending brief bursts of discomfort. Eli moved among them, offering words of encouragement and calming their fear. Suddenly, alarms blared. Vorn had discovered their location. Eli knew they could not stay. He guided the group toward emergency exits, using the knowledge of hidden passages that Lyra had studied. The rebels followed, moving swiftly but carefully. Lyra continued manipulating the system, sending pulses that masked their presence and disrupted the marks. Vorn arrived, his eyes sharp and calculating. He moved with precision, attempting to capture Lyra and regain control of the system. Eli confronted him directly, blocking his path while the others escaped. Their clash was quick and violent. Eli's combat training met Vorn's disciplined skill, each movement testing the other's strength and strategy. Lyra focused on the object, pulsing its energy in synchronization with Eli's movements. The system's signals became erratic, confusing Vorn and forcing him to retreat temporarily. Once the group was outside the facility, they regrouped. Hundreds of marked individuals were now free from the immediate control of the system. Some wept, others looked around in disbelief. Eli and Lyra ensured everyone remained calm and guided them to safe locations. The city streets were quiet again, but the system's pulse was changing. It was reacting to the human resistance in ways neither council nor enforcers could predict. Back at their quarters, Eli and Lyra studied the effects. The system had weakened, but the council was growing desperate. Reports from rebels indicated increased patrols, stricter controls, and attempts to manipulate fear signals more aggressively. The marks themselves pulsed violently in some areas, causing panic among the marked population. Eli and Lyra realized that every success came with consequences, and they had to be ready for retaliation. "We can reach the core of the system," she said, her voice soft but firm. "If we force it to face human courage directly rather than obedience, we could destroy it completely. But the risk is greater than anything we have faced." Eli considered the danger. Thousands could be affected if they failed, and Vorn would be waiting. Yet, he knew there was no other choice. The council could not continue to enslave without challenge. They began planning carefully. Lyra traced pathways through the city and ancient data channels that could lead them to the system's central control. Eli organized the rebels into small, precise units, each responsible for a specific task. They trained for days, rehearsing movements, emergency responses, and coordination signals. Every member understood the stakes. The night before the final operation, Eli and Lyra sat together quietly. Lyra held the hidden object, its glow faint but steady. She whispered words of encouragement, both to herself and Eli, reminding them of the courage that had brought them this far. Eli nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility pressing on him. "We will face it together," he said. "No one will be left behind." When the operation began, the city was dark and tense. Patrols moved cautiously, but Eli and Lyra used the shadows and secret pathways to reach the first control node. Lyra activated the object, sending pulses through the system. Lights flickered in the distance as rows of devices powering marks across the city dimmed temporarily. Panic and hope spread among the marked individuals, some realizing their chains were weakening. Vorn appeared suddenly, attempting to intercept them. Eli engaged him directly, buying time for Lyra to synchronize the object with the system. Their fight was intense, each movement precise, testing strength, skill, and strategy. Lyra's pulses caused the system to become unstable, allowing Eli to force Vorn back and maintain control of the situation. Through careful coordination, the rebels guided marked individuals to safety while Lyra manipulated the system. The core of the network reacted violently, sending waves through the city, but the object stabilized the signals, preventing widespread harm. Slowly, the system weakened further, its hold on the population faltering. As they reached the central control chamber, Eli realized the scale of what they faced. The core pulsed with energy, ancient and powerful, feeding on fear, obedience, and the will of the enslaved. Lyra prepared the object for its final synchronization. Every movement had to be perfect. A mistake could destroy them and harm countless lives. Eli stepped beside her, holding her hand briefly. "We are ready," he said. Lyra nodded, focusing on the hidden object. Its glow intensified, filling the chamber with a soft light. The system reacted, pulses racing and fluctuating violently. Eli and Lyra remained steady, guiding it to face courage instead of fear. The core shuddered. Machines powered down, lights dimmed, and the city felt lighter. Marks across the population weakened, some disappearing completely. The council's control faltered, and Vorn was forced to retreat, his authority shaken. Eli and Lyra had struck a decisive blow, freeing thousands and weakening centuries of oppression. As the city settled into a tense calm, Eli and Lyra looked at each other. Exhausted but determined, they realized their work was far from over. The council still existed, and the system's remnants would resist, but for the first time hope had taken root. The bonds they had formed, the courage they had shared, and the careful planning had given them an advantage no one had expected. The night was quiet. Outside, the city began to stir, unaware of the events that had reshaped its fate. The Mark's pulse was faint, a reminder of the chains that had been broken and the freedom that was beginning to spread. Eli and Lyra knew the final step was ahead, and when the moment came, they would face the core together, ready to end the Council's power once and for all. For now, they rested, gathering strength and preparing for the final confrontation. The bond between a human soldier and an alien scholar had grown stronger than fear, control, or ancient systems. Together, they had begun to change the galaxy. Eli and Lyra had prepared for the final step. The Council's control system was faltering, its power weakened by their careful strikes and the growing courage of the marked population. Vorn had disappeared, likely regrouping with the Council, but Eli did not fear him. He knew Vorn's skill, yet he also knew that human determination and Lyra's knowledge of the ancient system were stronger than fear and obedience. Tonight, they would confront the core directly. They moved quietly through the city, past dim streets and silent spires. The glow from Lyra's hidden object pulsed faintly, guiding them along pathways that had been abandoned for centuries. Every step was calculated, every sound carefully avoided. Small groups of rebels followed behind, prepared to assist if needed. The city itself seemed to hold its breath, unaware of the momentous act about to unfold. As they approached the central chamber, the air thickened with energy. The core pulsed rhythmically, ancient and powerful, feeding on the fear and obedience of countless beings. Machines hummed, lights flickered, and the walls vibrated slightly, as though alive. Eli felt the weight of centuries pressing against him, the oppression of a galaxy bound by the Council's control. Lyra stepped forward, the object in her hands glowing more brightly. She whispered instructions in her language, aligning the symbols with the system's signals. Eli placed his hand on hers, steadying her. "We face this together," he said. Her eyes met his, and for a moment the fear in them softened. They were not just allies. They were partners in a battle that went far beyond themselves. The chamber shook as they reached the core. Machines pulsed violently, reacting to their presence. Lyra focused, sending controlled pulses from the object into the system. The glow spread, filling the chamber with light. Eli moved to block the entrances, watching for any enforcer who might attempt interference. The system reacted unpredictably, flashes of energy striking the floor and walls. Marks across the city pulsed in response, some weakening, others resisting. Suddenly, alarms blared. Vorn had returned, flanking the chamber with a small squad of elite enforcers. Eli did not hesitate. He moved with precision, engaging them to prevent any interruption. Every strike was calculated to avoid injury to the marked individuals connected to the system. Voron fought skillfully, but Eli's determination and experience gave him the edge. He forced Vorn back, buying Lyra the precious moments she needed to synchronize the object fully with the system's core. The system pulsed violently, attempting to regain control. Marks flared across the population, sending waves of discomfort and panic. Lyra's voice was steady as she guided the energy, focusing it to replace fear with courage, obedience with choice. Eli supported her, standing as a shield and anchor against the violent feedback. The chamber trembled, ancient power meeting human and alien will in a struggle older than any living being. Slowly, the pulsing began to stabilize. Lights dimmed, machines powered down, and the core's energy felt lighter. Marks across the population weakened, many fading entirely. Citizens marked by the system felt relief and clarity for the first time in generations. The Council's hold on the galaxy was unraveling. Vorn, realizing his advantage had been lost, retreated. His eyes burned with anger and disbelief. But he could do nothing against the bond between Eli and Lyra, the courage of humans, and the knowledge Lyra wielded. Eli lowered his weapon, breathing heavily. Lyra's hands trembled slightly, but the object's glow had softened into a steady, calm light. Outside the chamber, rebels and freed individuals gathered, feeling the change ripple through the city. Hope spread quickly, a force stronger than fear or oppression. Eli and Lyra stepped outside, greeted by the first signs of a city awakening from centuries of control. People looked around, unafraid for the first time, their chains lifted by courage, trust, and careful planning. Back at their quarters, Eli and Lyra reflected on the battle. The Council had lost its control, its influence crumbling. The marks were fading, and the enforcers were powerless without the system to guide them. The galaxy was beginning to change, and humans were no longer guests or pawns. They had become a force of liberation, demonstrating that courage and intelligence could break even the oldest chains. Lyra carefully stored the object, now fully synchronized with the new signals. "It is done," she said softly. Eli nodded, understanding that this was more than victory. It was the start of a new era. Humans had proven their strength not just in combat, but in wisdom, patience, and resilience. Lyra's knowledge, combined with human courage, had overcome centuries of oppression. The next days were filled with rebuilding and organizing. Freed individuals were guided to safe zones, and communication networks were established to prevent any resurgence of control. Eli refused all offers of command or reward. He did not seek recognition. His focus remained on ensuring the system could never enslave anyone again. Lyra, finally free of the mark, began choosing her own path, no longer bound by fear or duty. The Council, weakened and disoriented, began to negotiate. The galaxy species looked to humans and Lyra as symbols of change. Alliances formed, not through fear, but through trust and shared purpose. Eli watched the developments quietly, satisfied that the hard work, careful planning, and unwavering courage had created lasting change. As night fell, Eli and Lyra stood together on a high spire, looking out at the city. Lights flickered below, citizens moving freely for the first time in generations. The sky was filled with stars, ancient and constant, watching over a galaxy that had learned something new. Courage, unity, and choice could overcome even the oldest systems of control. Lyra turned to Ellie, a small smile on her face. "We did it," she said. Eli nodded, his eyes reflecting the lights below. "We did it together," he replied. The galaxy had changed, and humans had shown that they were more than survivors. They were a force of liberation, intelligence, and hope. The wind swept across the spire, carrying with it the quiet hum of freedom. Eli and Lyra did not speak further. They did not need to. The future was wide open, unbound by fear and waiting for those brave enough to shape it. The ancient system had fallen, the Council's power shattered, and a new era had begun, one where humans and allies could decide their own fate. For the first time, the galaxy felt alive, free, and full of possibility. Eli and Lyra stood together, knowing that nothing could take that away. They had faced the oldest chains, endured fear, and acted with courage, and now the stars themselves seemed to shine a little brighter, welcoming the dawn of freedom.